The western sun burned like fire as Kahara lay still on the hot sand, her wide chest rising slowly with each breath. She had once been feared across the plains, a giant Apache warrior with arms thick as tree trunks and strength that broke enemy lines. Now her legs lay useless beneath her, numb and lifeless after her final battle with the cavalry. The war had taken her movement, and when her strength was no longer whole, her own tribe decided she was no longer needed. Her father stood before her with a small leather pouch of dried meat. His face was hard, carved by years of war and tradition. Behind him stood her two brothers, tall and strong, but their eyes were cold, already turned away. None of them met Kahara's gaze, even though her dark eyes burned with fury and pain. "Father," she rasped, her voice dry from thirst and rage, "do not leave me here." He did not answer. He only turned his back and spoke to his sons. "Let's go." Dust rose as the three figures walked away toward the horizon, leaving Kahara alone beneath the blazing sky. She had been their pride once. Now she was nothing more than a burden they did not want to carry. The heat shimmered in the air, like fire ready to ignite. Kahara tried to drag her massive body forward, her strong arms digging into the sand. Her legs did not respond. She slipped and fell back hard. The breath knocked from her chest. Sweat mixed with sand and burned her eyes. People from the nearby town passed her during the day. Some slowed their steps, staring. One man muttered, "That giant Apache girl. Stay away." No one stopped. No one offered water. They walked on as if helping her would bring bad luck. As the sun tilted west, a hay cart creaked to a stop nearby. A man climbed down, his clothes rough and worn, his arms dark from years under the sun. His name was Thomas Rohr, a quiet farmer who lived alone on the edge of town. Kara watched him warily. "Aren't you afraid of me?" she asked. Thomas did not answer right away. He knelt beside her and gently lifted her shoulders, as if she weighed no more than a bundle of wood. "You need help," he said simply. "That is enough." Without another word, he pulled wooden planks from his cart and built a rough stretcher. With slow, steady strength, he dragged Kahara away from the place where even her own blood had abandoned her. Thomas's farm sat more than a mile from town. A sagging fence circled a small house with a sun-faded roof and a quiet horse stable. By the time he pulled the stretcher into the yard, his breathing was heavy. Still, he lifted Kahara with care and laid her on a crude bed covered with an old blanket. The room smelled of pine wood, smoke, and sawdust. Kahara looked around, uneasy. "You brought me to your home?" she asked. "There was nowhere else," Thomas said. "You are safer here." Later, he brought her a bowl of hot porridge. Kahara tried to lift the spoon. Her arm was still powerful, thick with muscle, but it shook. The spoon fell to the floor. Her jaw clenched. "I am this big," she said bitterly, "and I cannot even feed myself." Thomas picked up the spoon and placed it back in her hand. Surviving is nothing to be ashamed of. When she still struggled, he turned his back and held the spoon behind his shoulder so she could lean forward and eat without being watched. Her pride stayed intact, even in weakness. That night, whispers spread through town. "He brought a giant Apache warrior into his house," people said. "He's asking for trouble." Thomas heard them, but he did not answer. As darkness fell, Kahara lay listening to the sounds of Thomas working. Wood scraped. A knife tapped against a board. The door was reinforced. Each sound felt like something broken inside her being quietly repaired. For the first time in days, she slept without fear of being left behind. The next morning, hammering echoed outside. Kahara struggled to turn and look through the window. Thomas was bent over wheels, wooden frames, and rusted metal bars. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Something that needs doing," he replied. By noon, he carried a large wooden frame inside. Kahara's chest tightened. It was a wheelchair, wide and strong, built to support her heavy, muscular body. "For me?" she asked softly. "Who else?" Thomas said over the following days. Hammering filled the air. Kahara watched, caught between gratitude and discomfort. On the battlefield, she had always been the strongest. Now a quiet farmer was doing what her tribe never had. One evening, she spoke. "Aren't you afraid helping someone like me will bring trouble?" Thomas looked at her in the lamp's warm glow. "I am," he said. "But letting you die out there scared me more." When the wheelchair was finished, Thomas lifted her into it. The wood held firm. Kahara pushed the wheels. She rolled forward, smooth and free. Her heart thundered. "You gave me freedom," she whispered. "You are no longer bound," Thomas said. "Go wherever you want." She looked at him. "Even if I choose to stay?" Thomas nodded. "If that is what you want?" Kahara shook her head. "I do not want to leave." From that day on, she worked beside him. She held boards steady. She carried water with her powerful arms. At night, they repaired the stable together, speaking little, understanding much. One evening, as the sun painted her face in firelight, Kahara spoke quietly. "You let me work as if I am still a warrior." "I do not care what you were," Thomas said. "You are working now. That is enough." The wind moved through her hair. For the first time since her legs went numb, Kahara laughed. After that evening, something quiet but powerful settled between Kahara and Thomas. It was not spoken aloud, but it lived in the way they moved around each other, careful and steady. Like two people learning the shape of a new life. Each morning, the sound of wheels on dirt became part of the farm. Kahara rolled herself outside as the sun climbed over the hills. Her broad shoulders caught the light, her strong arms already busy before the heat grew heavy. Thomas worked nearby, never rushing her, never stopping her. They rebuilt the fence. Together, Kahara held the posts straight while Thomas set them into the ground. Her muscles tightened with effort, veins standing out beneath her dark skin. She worked in silence, sweat rolling down her face, not from weakness, but from purpose. In the afternoons, she carried buckets of water across the yard, lifting them with ease. Townspeople sometimes watched from a distance, whispering, "A giant." Apache woman in a wheelchair, working like she owned the land. Thomas ignored the looks. Kaha noticed them, but they no longer cut as deep. One evening, as the sky turned red, Kahara sat on the porch, watching Thomas shave a plank of wood. The scent of sawdust mixed with dry grass in the air. "You let me do all this," she said slowly, "as if I still matter." Thomas did not look up. "You matter because you are here." Her chest tightened at his words. For a long time, she said nothing. That night, after the tools were put away, Kahara spoke again, her voice lower than usual. "Thomas, I have never been close to a man before. I was trained to fight, not to feel. But now I feel something. I am curious. And I long to know what it means to be touched without fear." Thomas froze. The wood slipped from his hands and fell softly to the porch. He turned to face her, his expression serious, not hungry, not afraid. "I will never do anything to make you uncomfortable," he said. "But I will not lie and say I feel nothing." The words struck her harder than any blow she had taken in battle. Kahara looked away, her powerful shoulders drawing in slightly. A rare sign of shyness. "There is nothing wrong with longing," Thomas continued, "but it must come with trust." Kahara took a deep breath. "I do not know if I am ready," she said, "but I am not afraid when I am with you." They sat together on the porch until the night grew cool. No hands reached out. No promises were made. Yet the space between them felt smaller than it ever had. In the days that followed, warmth grew where distance once lived. They shared meals at the wooden table they had repaired together. Thomas cooked simple food. Kahara ate everything, even when it burned or lacked salt. She told him stories of battles and lost friends. Thomas spoke of growing up alone, of working the land since he was a boy. They learned each other without effort. One night, the moon hung bright above the farm. Kahara sat alone on the porch, staring into the dark land beyond the fence. The moonlight traced the curve of her shoulders, making her look strong and lonely all at once. Thomas stepped outside and stopped when he saw her. His heart pounded. He knew if he stayed silent, the words inside him might never come out. He knelt before her, his hands clasped tight. "Kahara," he said, his voice shaking but steady. "I do not have much. No ring, no preacher. Only this land and my promise. But I want to marry you, if you will have me, whether your legs ever walk again or not." Her eyes widened. Her breath caught in her chest. This was the woman who had charged into gunfire without fear, now frozen by something far more powerful. "No one has ever chosen me," she whispered. "I choose you," Thomas said. From the first day, tears burned her eyes. Slowly, she placed her large hand on his shoulder. "I say yes," she said. "You are everything I did not know I could have." He leaned in, and they shared a kiss that was not rushed or soft, but honest and full of held-back fire. Under the quiet night, two abandoned souls found each other. But peace never stays hidden for long in the West. One afternoon, thunder of hooves broke the quiet. Kahara and Thomas turned as three riders approached. Apache men wore paint across their skin. Kahara knew them at once. Her father, her two brothers. Thomas stepped forward, gripping his axe. "Go inside," he said softly. "No," Kahara replied. "This is mine to face." The riders dismounted. Her father's voice was cold. "You ran from the tribe. You live with a white man now." Her brother spat on the ground. "Shame. You are coming back," the younger one said, gripping his bow. Kahara rolled forward, her eyes burning. "You left me to die," she said, "because I could not walk." "The tribe does not carry the useless," her father replied. The words struck deep, but Kahara did not bend. She lifted the axe Thomas had given her, her arms tense and strong. "Here I work. I fight," she said. "And if you try to take me, I will show you what I still am." The wind carried silence. Her father looked at her arms, at Thomas standing ready beside her. At last he turned away. "She is chosen," he said. The riders left, dust rising behind them. Kahara breathed hard, her heart pounding. Thomas placed a hand on her shoulder. "They no longer decide my life," she said. "No," Thomas replied. "You do." That night, Kahara slept lighter than she ever had, not because the past was gone, but because it no longer owned her. After the riders disappeared into the dust, something heavy lifted from Kahara's chest. The past no longer stood behind her like a shadow ready to pull her back. That night, she and Thomas sat on the porch without speaking. The wind moved softly through the grass, and the silence felt safe. The next morning, Kahara woke before sunrise. She wheeled herself into the yard as a thin line of light cut across the desert. Thomas was already checking the fence. When he heard the wheels, he turned and smiled. "You are up early," he said. "Work clears the mind," Kahara replied. She lifted a wooden post with one hand, her muscles tight and steady. Thomas watched her with quiet admiration. Even without the use of her legs, her strength filled the space around her. They worked through the heat together, watering the fields, fixing the stable roof, sweeping broken wood aside. Kahara moved with purpose, not to prove herself, but because she belonged there. At midday, Thomas reached out and touched her shoulder. "You do not have to push yourself. I am not," she said. "This is my place." Those words stayed with him. That evening, they ate under the porch, looking out at the land they had rebuilt together. Kahara spoke slowly, as if uncovering something buried deep. "I thought my worth ended when my legs stopped working," she said. "I believed strength was only in war." Thomas met her gaze. "You still have strength and heart." She let out a soft laugh. "A warrior with a heart." "You have more heart than anyone I know," he said. As the sun fell, Kahara leaned back against the doorframe. "When I am with you," she said quietly, "I do not feel like someone who was left behind." "You walked into this life with your own strength," Thomas replied. In that moment, the farm was no longer just land and wood. It was home. There were no church bells on the day they joined their lives. No preacher. Just a quiet desert morning. Thomas brought out a small wooden box he had carved himself. Inside lay a wide silver ring, shaped to fit Kahara's strong fingers. "You made this?" she asked, her voice tight. "I wanted you to have something made by my hands," he said. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "You were not abandoned," Thomas said. "You were chosen." Tears finally came, the first she had. "Shed since the battlefield. You saw me," she said. "You never turned away." "And I never will," he replied. From that day on, the farm changed. Kahara built sheds and repaired walls. Thomas planted more fields. They learned the land together, the seasons, the quiet rhythm of work and rest. Each evening, they sat side by side, watching the sun fade behind the hills. No war, no running. Just warmth shared between two people who had once been left behind. Kahara touched the silver ring as the wind passed over the porch. For the first time since the war, she felt light, free, worthy in the harsh land of the West. They built something rare, not with wealth or words, but with kindness, resilience, and a love strong enough to stand where the world had once turned away.